warden for the Nashville Community Service Center in Nashville. Welcome to Black Pulse.
Thank you for
Mr.
the
Bass.
opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
In our introduction, we mentioned the fact that Tennessee has not had an execution since 1960. And of course, we do recognize that the death issue is a very important issue. And
Yes.
we'd like for you to talk about that. But before we get into that issue, why don't you tell us something about your own background in the criminal justice system?
Well, I joined the Department of Corrections in 1961 as a line officer at the main prison. I came to work there approximately 1 year after the death of the last inmate to go to the death center, and that was an inmate by the name of Times, if I'm correct. I've seen a lot of changes over the years, but basically the arguments pro and con in the arena of the death sentence has been basically the change over those years that I've been with the department. It hasn't changed that much.
So essentially the same argument for or against it.
You hear basically the same argument. I think that there's some new elements that had been introduced, and since I've been with the Department of Corrections, I think the one element that has not been dwelled on that much, and that is the fact that over a period of 15 to 20 years while someone is waiting the death sentence, waiting to exhaust all avenues of appeal, that there is a relationship that is building between the staff at that particular institution as well as the inmate in that particular cell waiting the death sentence. And oftentimes when we do get down to the point of where all avenues of appeal has been exhausted, then we force that particular employee or that particular staff to execute that person whom they have more or less treated and cared for over a period of 15 to 20 years. I don't really think that that is given enough consideration as it relates to the death penalty and its impact upon the staff at a particular institution.
Why don't you give us a little history of the death penalty in the state of Tennessee, Mr. Bass?
Well, over the years, I believe my stats are correct. The Department of Correction executed approximately 126 inmates. I think that it's interesting when you look at those 126 people who has gone to their death. I think you'll find that almost 100% of them was represented by a public defender whom was recommended to them by the court.
Now, that's one of the big criticisms in reference to the death penalty, the kind of defense that is generally offered.
That is a criticism, yes. The second thing that I have noticed in looking at the files on these people is that, regardless of whether they're black or white, that 99% of them are poor and could not afford adequate defense of their
legal
case,
defense.
Legal defense. And that's an age-old criticism of the death penalty itself. Another thing is you find that the larger percentage of those receiving the death sentence has been black. I think in Tennessee about 82% of the people that we have executed over the years, they have been black. And I think that that is certainly another fact that we have to look at. I think that we have to look at the fact that many of the young people that have gone to the death sentence in the state of Tennessee are people without that much of an education. Many of them have no church affiliation. Many of them are from broken homes. I say that to say that I think that here again we see somewhere in the scheme of things those institutions that are in your community and my community to bring about acceptable behavior in our young people as they come along and enter into adulthood, somewhere along the line something is failing, because we do not only see this as with those going to the death chair, but just about any time you find an individual that is in trouble with the law, that is in prison, that is in a juvenile facility, these same factors keep kicking out. I think that we've got to start looking at what is going wrong in your community and my community that is causing people to commit a crime of such a nature that would cause us to want to put him to death.
So given the fact that there's a social element involved in
Right.
terms of who will eventually end up on death row and
Right.
who will not end up on death row. But at the same time, I think one of the arguments is that there are victims who suffer as well, and I guess this might be a vengeance kind of argument, and I think that again is another kind of argument that has come back up again. How would you react to that?
Well, my reaction to that is I think when you look at the death sentence itself, I think you have to look at it from the standpoint of its impact on the not only the victim, but also the perpetrator of the crime itself. And I think that what has happened in our system is that we have not come up with a system of equity in Tennessee, or in this country for that matter. It's no, happenstance that all of the people that have wound up on death row are poor. They had public defenders. They, for the most part, are black. For the most part, they're from a low-income area. They're from broken homes. They have no church affiliation, no education. These factors continue to kick out, and I think that rather than to try to weigh it one way or the other, I think we need to look at the overall fact of the death penalty and its impact upon not only the victim, but the perpetrator as well as the community and everything else, because I think it's a symptomatic of a greater problem in our society than we care to talk about.
I think another thing that's important, we mentioned in our introduction, the fact that some of the those who have been condemned might be using up all of their appeal time now. And could you perhaps give us some information relative to the status of some of the
Well, we have 40-plus inmates in our prison system, particularly at the main prison, waiting the death sentence, and some of those prisons have been there for an extremely long period of time, and some of the things that we have already talked about are prevalent among these 40 people. That if you look at them, you'll find that most of them are poor. You'll find that most of them are from low socioeconomic areas of the community. You'll find that I think that the percentages have came up now. It's more balanced between the number of blacks and whites, but still you will find somewhat of an imbalance when you look at the number of blacks that it makes up the Tennessee population. We make up something like 13% of the state population, but when you look at the prison population and those of us that are sitting there on death row, you'll find that we're better than 50% of the population. So there is still an inequity there that we have to look at. And I think that when you look at those people, we've got the same problems that we have just talked about. One is that we have been feeding, showering, and caring for these people for an extremely long period of time, and now we're going to turn around after this relationship has developed over 10 to 15 years, we're going to turn around and say to that officer and to that warden that you now must execute this person. That's a very difficult thing to do.
It is. We've got just about a minute to go, Mr. Bass. Is there a final comment that you'd like to make? We certainly enjoyed having you here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think that the thing that we have got to look upon, if we are going to insist on having the death penalty, we have got to bring about equity in it. I think that that is the only way that most people are going to accept it. I think that's the reason that most people oppose the death penalty, because of its inequity. And if we're going to put somebody to death, we need to make sure that we do it right. We make sure we're fair when we do it, and we need to make sure that it's something that we do not see a color line in.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to break now. We'll be back following this announcement.